another an illustration of what I said previously, a field, a very interesting field that we are opening today with GAIN in a strong partnership. We as operator have a lot of compartmental data on people because the way you use your phone, the way you move with your phone, all this can be recorded. It is recorded, actually. The idea is, I mean, I'm not going into this privacy debate because the idea is not to target people in order to send them targeting advertisement or things like that. It's more to take the statistical analysis of all this data and use this analysis of data to trigger, for instance, at the scale of a country, change in the behavior of people, the way they call, who they call, how they move, to see if we can find or correlate this trigger with a starting malnutrition issue at the level of a community. Because you have an antenna every kilometers, okay, where the country is covered, but you have a very thin information of behavior change in the population. And we have a big opening study that we want to start to check at this data and check on the field what are the nutrition state of the population and see if there is correlation to do an early warning network for malnutrition.
So that's already
very
a project
subject,
underway.
yeah.
Okay, just before we open the debate to the floor, Hans, is it not possible that developments like the kinds of ones that are being talked about here could bring about perhaps a different kind of retail revolution? I mean, maybe it's the kind which makes the mom and pop shop a better place rather than actually getting rid of it altogether.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well, but I don't think it very much. I think what you're saying is right. Enabling, I mean, don't forget, a hard discounter is completely ICT run. I mean, it's a very fine-tuned distribution system.
They know exactly what their shoppers want.
I'm 100% in agreement that it should be enabled in that way. But there's some tiny little details that make, for example, home delivery difficult in many countries. In many countries, people don't even have an address. So those silly, tiny things are important. The other thing is, what you see is indeed in developments with ICT that countries that enter later into the development overstep steps that we've taken here. But still, for the moment, and I've been thinking exactly about that question, I can't think of any other way than just having a shop in my village, hard discounting shop, very small shop with 300, 400, 500 SKUs of the basic necessities. I don't see any alternative in direct or other ways.
And whoever else is driven out of business in the process, you still think it delivers better to the consumer?
The moms and pops, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I just want to react briefly on this home address issue. I know actually a few initiatives that use mobile phone in developing countries as your home address. So they are able actually to deliver services based on triangulations of where you are with your phone. So what I want to try to say here is that perhaps the system is not to think of traditional retail with traditional home address, but to use also leveraging of technology like ICT to develop a new type of system.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Our first question. Thank you.
I have a question for Hans. I can't resist.
Yes, please.
I think you're absolutely right in drawing attention to the retail segment as not being fully engaged in a discourse on health. We're finding, for example, in the US that the supermarkets deliver about 60% of calories, but 72% of added sugars, so that our focus on the fast foods, schools, vending has been misplaced. But going on from that, we have a study on shopping for health, where we actually know where people live, we know where they shop, and we're able to stratify obesity rates by where they shop. So we're finding shoppers at Whole Foods, obesity rate 4%. Safeway, mid-range, 25%. Albertsons, 36%. Hard discount grocery outlet, 48%. So I'm thinking that Aldi shoppers, obesity rate will be double the national average. So is that true? And how do you explain that?
Whether it's true, you're the expert. I wouldn't be able to tell you. But let's stick with your data. It might well be that Aldi shoppers in where, the US?
Well, it's actually a grocery outlet in the US. You know,
in the
obesity
US.
rates
Okay.
double the US county average.
Okay, there. It could be the chicken and the egg. Is it the fact that they buy the stuff at Aldi, or is a certain type of people that tend to be obese shopping at Aldi? I cannot tell you, just like that. But I would advise to not try to search for the perfect system, because every system we can invent has its negative aspects. I agree with you. But let's first, I was still sitting with the picture of that mother with a baby. Let's first get something into that baby, and then let's think about obesity. And indeed, could there be obesity things? Yes, but don't forget, it's another thing on the CGF CEO Summit, and there we're talking about the really big shots of Coca-Cola, Ahold, Walmart, and whatever. Obesity is the number one interest of them, so they're really looking into it. And I can assure you, by knowing the retailers from inside, that once these guys get their mind to something, they can make it work. So if we, and with your data and with your help, can convince them, hey guys, you should do even more, once they get that machinery going, they can really make the impact. Let's use the word impact.
Except making it
again.
work commercially is not necessarily the same as making it work nutritionally.
I think so. Let's take something like child labor. We don't want that. The moment that IKEA is seen as employing child labor, a big uproar everywhere, and that will force them again neatly into the line of not using child labor. The same would be with this. These companies are incredibly sensitive to that kind of public pressure.
Okay, well, let's see what other people... Adrian, can we get a microphone? You were shaking your head there, so would you like to just maybe come in and say something to... You looked very unhappy with what Hans was saying. Yes? No? Okay, why not?
Yes, please.
I can't resist seeing a reaction in an audience.
Only because you insist, because I disagree. Don't first put food in the belly of these children and then think afterward what you want to do. No, I think we need to think about technology, innovation, but also use what we know in nutrition. And we know what has not worked so far, so let's think really a bit further. Use all this new technology and what we want to do.
Yeah, but is obesity, is that, I mean, you're the expert, is obesity the fact that there is chocolate in the store, or is it the fact that I put too much chocolate in myself?
Yeah, perhaps both.
Well,
perhaps both. I think there's a lady there, Adrian, and then Paulus, I'll come back to you in a second.
Thank you. I really like this session. I assisted at the same meeting where Mark spoke about last week in Seattle at the Gates Foundation, where it was about not only talking about the technical innovations where the Gates Foundation is focused on, but then the thing is, how do we get people to use them? So I think we've been sitting here with food producers. We've got nice, nutritious products. Now the second question is, how do you distribute it to people? And the third question is, how do we create demand for it? I have a lot of question marks with the retail session, but I do believe, because the basic necessities in D&E countries people get from the, as you call, the wet market, etc. Whereas what we want them to get is basic necessities plus, fortified or fortified infant foods, etc. So what we need to do is work with the retailers that they understand that that's what they have to offer. Not just the cheapest spaghetti, but the spaghetti with 1 or 2 cents more. But that's some work to do. But I do see the point that you're making, and it helps in thinking about distribution, and that's, I think, what we have to talk about in innovation, not just product innovation, but the distribution innovation. And the third point is the two people talking about ITC and mobile, that's innovation in demand creation. Because it's not a need. It's a need, but it's not a want of consumers. So I'm working with Unilever.
So there's something missing in the middle.
And I think that, it has been mentioned. With ITC and with the mobile technology, we can help create the want with the consumers for these basic necessities plus. Yeah, I hope.
Well, you can also, more than creating the demand, you can understand better your consumer.
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of creating the demand, knowing really what's appealing to them, what can be actually sold to them.
It's supposed to be an expertise of food producers as well.
Okay. Ludovid, just briefly before we move to the next question, are there examples in the country you work in where distribution is being improved through the use of mobile phone technology? You know, I don't know, maybe people tell you there's a shortage of such and such thing here, or maybe somehow it's being used to make the distribution system more efficient.
Well, I will not talk about one of our distribution success because it really concerns us. But yeah, let's talk about it. It's good.
Tell us a secret.
No,
Your
it
PR
can be
people might be
interesting. It
upset
can
if
be
you
interesting for other people. At the age of our network, our coverage, we don't go further because there is a lack of. We don't make any more money if we put more antennas, and because there is not enough people to serve. But we decide to extend a little bit our coverage by selecting community of at least 500 people and electing one people, usually one person, usually a woman. And this woman will be equipped with a telephone, with a specific antenna that will connect her to the network. A regular phone is not connected, she will be connected. And she will be a telephone office, like office in the village, in the community. And then everybody will come to give a phone call, and she will take message as well for people. And this is an extreme success. I mean, the ladies make a living with this job. It's very important, so it's sustainable. She paid the phone, she owned the phone, she is our own employee. And she's a self-employed, and the service for the community is huge. If you go on the Saturday, when it's marketplace in the village, you have a queue, 100-meter queue in the village just to give phone call and to receive phone call. It improves the security of the village. We improve the way that people get married village to village because the ladies know each other, call each other, and they married people each other. I mean, it's unbelievable what happened around this
Gosh,
opportunity.
I never knew you were into the marriage business.
I mean, it's
really
incredible. I mean, they took the usage and they did. I mean, they took the tool and they create a new world of communication around. It's very interesting. Just a word. This type of network that we build, it's an indirect distribution network. Now it's only for voice. Okay, tomorrow we'll try to put data on it. But tomorrow we can also take information about food processing, about meteo information for the farmer. We can empower this person with a lot of information useful for the village or service that she can provide to the village. And villager can pay for the service as well, and so on. Okay. This is a very interesting distribution network.
Thank you. So,
I would like to comment a little bit on your discussion, Hans. It's a little bit like the lobby of the weapons. Selling a weapon is not meaning you're responsible for committing the murder, but you have to think what you're doing when you sell it, in my context. And when you go to retail stores in developing countries, you try to shorten the value chain, which means taking money out of the chain, which also means taking out labor of the chain. And I think if you go in developing countries, taking out labor of the chain is a big, big problem because you cause a lot of people not any longer able to buy what you are selling in the retail store. So I'm not sure whether this is the right approach in this context.
Yes, of course you're right that with every development, and I'm thinking the same of Telecom, if the world's changing, it will change the distribution of jobs. I'm 100% in agreement with that. The telecommunication revolution, I think, has taken away 50% of the jobs in all the old state phone. I mean, you know the precise figures, but I mean, it's a huge amount. Yes, you're totally right. But I'm still thinking of that mother with her baby, and I would like to get the right food in her. And that's, with every development, yes, there are negative aspects. We got cars, and I'm sure that right this moment somebody's killed in a car here in Europe. Okay, that happens. We can drink a beer. I drank a beer yesterday at dinner. Maybe you did too. And there are people that drink too much. And I think there's negative aspects with everything, but I would like to keep my eye on the ball, take the main focus, and I think shortening the value chain and making a very efficient retail infrastructure, I'm convinced that's good for a country, it's good for its population, it's good for the mother and the child. That I'm 100% sure of.
Okay, thank you. So.
Yes, I was wondering if the panel comment on shortening the supply chain is if you could use your mobile phone for payment. So it's like mobile banking without involving a bank. And that would allow buyer and seller to get together without expensive infrastructure. And that would shorten the value chain.
I can comment on that because there is...
Both of you can comment on that, I'm sure. Nicolas.
There are systems like this already existing. One is actually in Kenya. So Ludovid, it's a competitor of yours, but it's called M-Pesa. It's a system whereas you can transfer money actually via SMS from a mobile phone to mobile phone without having a bank account.
Wow.
It's claimed that 20% of the GDP of Kenya last year went through M-Pesa. Okay. So there is a huge impact. And Orange has a similar system. A lot of operators have the similar system, and they are not banks. So they are able to enable that.
So you do something similar?
Yes, we have Orange Money. It's a service that is launched in almost every African country. It starts to work, but it's difficult to take off.
Maybe it's more reliable than the euro. You never know.
No, it's very interesting. It's very interesting, but it's really a big change in the population. Current behaviors, and habits, and it's difficult service to operate. Just to make a note about what you said, to operate a mobile banking system, you need a bank as a partner. You cannot do it. I mean, I cannot become a bank. There is a legal constraint that you need to partner with the bank. So behind that, you always have a bank.
But maybe it's an idea to take home to Bangladesh. If it's not happening already. I think, do we have a question over here? And then I'm going to let Paulus have the last word. Go ahead.
This is Marian. I work for a Dutch NGO, and my question is to Hans. We work with Ahold, one of your clients, not yet on nutrition, but we do work on health within their communities. I think CSR is quite well within their minds. And from my position, I was attending a very big purchasing event from Navy. And this purchasing event was about CSR, again. And there was a very interesting question, which I would also like to ask you. Because if I understood right, you advise purchasing agents, I think also, buyers at this...
I know them in the margins of my business, yes.
Yeah, okay, but you work with hard discounters.
Yeah.
And the question was, which is like the chicken and egg thing, which is the same question. He said, do you know, as a buyer, the difference between a machinist, the person behind the train who stops, and a purchase manager? Do you know the difference?
No.
Okay, his answer was that the machinist of the train doesn't know where he needs to stop. And buyers do not know when to stop.
Is that a question or?
No, well, well, you did not. I did my question, and you did not know.
I got the joke, but I'm looking for the question. I think that indeed buyers. Well, first of all, I'm not a buying specialist, but I do know, of course, buying as part of the strategic picture of retail companies. What you see is that it depends very much on the corporate culture of the different chains, whether they can stop or not. I was talking to a supplier to both Aldi and Lidl, so both the big German discounters, and he said with Lidl it's precisely like that. He said I'm in a discussion with the category manager of Lidl. And then we shake hands, I go away. He said, in the hallway already, I click off my phone. Because if I don't do that, before I'm with my car, there he is again. Yes, I was thinking about this and that. Can we take 1 cent off or something like that? If you take Aldi, on the other hand, they are seen by almost anybody I've talked to as being absolutely the best company to work for as a supplier. yes, first of all, they start to talk about the innovation of your products. So they are open to discussions about obesity and whatever. So they first think about the products, how can you fit into the assortment? Then there is a bit of negotiation, that's hard. These guys from Aldi know your business better than you do yourself. So you know that that's the offer which is reasonable. They allow you to earn money, still. But they say they are the most profitable companies to work for. Why? Because from that moment on, everything sticks. Every agreement you make sticks. So they don't come back for more. And the moment, a simple example, the moment your truck is ordered at 9:02 at the warehouse, your truck comes into the warehouse, it slides open and you can unload. So it differs. It differs.
All right, thank you. Paulus.
Yeah, part of the student. Thank you, Hans, for the talk. I'm sorry, we were sticking to retail because it's such an important area.
Yeah.
And by the way, on the chicken and egg thing, once I mentioned that to Pullman a few years ago about chicken and egg problems in general. He said, you know what the problem is? We've got too many chickens and no eggs. So that's I think we need to focus on. To come back on this, the retail plays a very important, crucial role because they are closely in contact with the consumer directly in here. I know that by experience because about 10 years ago I talked to them about functional foods in the Eurocommerce area to say you need to think about this trend here, you need to take that on board. You have been talking a couple of times now, how do we reach that mother with her child? What needs to be done in order to make that happen, in your view? What are the first, and who should be the first to move on that? Is that the business itself? Is that the private sector who's going to help and make sure they're doing it? Or is it through a, let's say, a consumer want or the consumer demand side?
In general, I don't think that the mother and her child is now thinking, ooh, I would like a hard discounter here. She doesn't have a clue. So I think that, yes, you need to get those big companies changing. There is one big challenge which I cannot help immediately, is that all these big companies are overstretched when it comes to management capacity. They've got a limited amount of talent, and they need that talent in the countries that are sizable and can bring something. So I've had precisely on this a discussion with a big European hard discounter not too long ago, who I would like to go to a certain country which I shall not name, but which is outside of Europe. They had a real good discussion about it, they were honest about it, and they said, yeah, good idea, we should do it, but sorry, our management is occupied elsewhere. So that, I think, is one of the main barriers. It's not the money, because these companies are loaded with money. They can invest it, there's no problem. It's management capacity which is the main thing. I would think, and therefore I would advise you to get these guys on board with GAIN. There is a certain awareness problem as well. They're so busy with the countries they're in that everything else is further into the future. So I do believe that GAIN might give them a little bit of a push in this direction.
Yeah, and maybe this is about mitigating the risk or providing the encouragement, which is, you know, part of what the public sector can bring to this. But I'd like to thank all three of you. Thank you very much for taking part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
So.